do is called Conversation with the CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited today for another edition of Conversation with the CEO. We've got a special guy here with us. I like him because anybody who spends a lot trying to help when it comes to education, I care about that. You know, education is constantly changing, and seems like he's in the right place at the right time because the pandemic has created a new culture of learning. Which we call remote learning, as well as online education, which is new to quite a few people, even though it's been around for some time. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the CEO of Boxlight Corporation. His name is Michael Pope. He's a father of four, and we welcome him to our program. How you doing, Mike?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And you're right about education, right? Education has took the brunt of, I think various industries, but education in particular has taken the brunt of COVID. And I'm feeling it both as the CEO of Boxlight, but also, as you mentioned, I have 4 kids, and those 4 kids are all in school. And we went through virtual learning and hybrid learning just like everybody. And that was a challenge both as a father as well as at Boxlight.
Wow. Tell me something. With you running a company that's about remote learning and having to do that with your kids, did you learn anything that you immediately implemented within your own company?
Yeah, the answer is absolutely. So my kids attend public schools here outside of Atlanta where we live. And we did go to virtual learning like a lot of people did after COVID first hit and around March of last year. And I would tell you that the engagement of my kids in their education declined substantially over virtual learning versus what it had been when they were in person. And you could just see that when they were on those Zoom calls, you could walk by and look at their computers and you could see if they were paying attention. And a lot of times they weren't. Even my own kids weren't paying attention. I'd catch my oldest on ESPN.com or something rather than actually paying attention to the lesson. So I think, virtual definitely causes some complications for most students on your ability to pay attention and to be alert and to be engaged. Now, there's some ways where you can fix that. And we've worked really hard to allow or to provide teachers tools to where they can be more effective in that environment. And I can definitely talk about some of those. But I would just also add that I feel bad for the teachers, right? Most teachers out there were not instructed and they weren't educated on how to teach in virtual environments. This was something new. They're learning new platforms, new teaching styles, dealing with students that if they do show up, sometimes students don't even show up. And so they have to deal with attendance concerns. But if they do show up, they have to deal with the challenges that those students have in their various learning environments. And also you had students that didn't have good devices to use at home. You had students that didn't have quality Wi-Fi solutions. You had students that didn't have, even a good environment for them to sit and have a quiet environment to pay attention. And so there were a lot of challenges and definitely feel for teachers and students. As far as Boxlight, one of the things that we focused on, and we did this right after COVID had hit last year, was we knew that we needed to launch a new learning platform that addressed the needs of today for virtual and hybrid learning. And we did that. Okay. We launched a new platform called Mimio Connect, that among other things. But that platform was designed and developed specifically for the needs of today. And there's tools in that platform that allow for more engagement and collaboration between students and between the teacher and students. That platform allows for assessment, real-time assessment or formative assessment during the period where the teacher can get real-time feedback. There's tools in the platform for video and communication like we're having here in Zoom, but specifically catered towards education, which has some specific needs. There's also tools around monitoring, knowing if the students are on task or if they need assistance. And the teacher has, and I could spend 30 minutes telling you about the platform. But I would say that it was built specifically for education, and there's not a better platform out there for virtual and hybrid learning than our Mimio Connect platform.
What's been the reviews from teachers? What are teachers saying? Because I called a couple of teachers and I told them, I said, I'm going to be interviewing a CEO of a remote learning platform, and they said, well, ask him this, and a lot of them they were concerned about students staying ahead as opposed to falling behind because of remote learning. What would you say to the teachers that had that concern, and what have the teachers been telling you?
Yeah, well, so first off, it's very well documented that the learning gap is widened dramatically. So the students that are performing versus the students that have been falling behind, that gap is wider than it's ever been. And I would tell you that gap also is wider in disadvantaged areas or areas,
Yeah.
where they don't have the same funding, or the inner cities, or areas with larger minority populations,
Yeah.
they've been hit the hardest. And so that's a major concern. How do you bridge that learning gap? We talk about that at Boxlight all the time. In fact, we talk about, for the education sector, and we sell into corporate as well, but for the education sector, we talk about, we're an education company, and it's our goal and our mission to drive student outcomes, or to improve student outcomes. And we do that by providing teachers better tools. And so, back to that, and specifically, I would love to hear the questions that they have, because we're trying to incorporate. We ask the same questions, by the way. When I go out and
Perfect.
talk to educators, I ask the same questions and say, okay, what do you need? How can we help? What can we do differently? But I would say our platform in particular, the monitoring tools, the collaboration tools, the assessment tools, those are what really differentiate us from, say, a Zoom platform, which is a great platform for communication, but it doesn't have all of the teaching aspects. Also, our platform allows a teacher to create their lesson plan within the platform and share that lesson plan within the platform. We also have thousands of lesson plans and content and tools and activities all built into it. It's an education platform. That's the major difference.
I want to say congratulations to you. You getting the Ed Tech Award finalist in 6 categories,
That's
not
right.
1, 6. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, that's among the dozens of others that we've received recently, and we're receiving awards from all the major providers out there in the education industry. We're very proud of that. That's validation that we're doing something right, because these are experts in the industry. A lot of those awards too are vetted by educators, so these are educators recognizing us for what we're doing. And those awards are not only for our, we've talked a lot about software, but not only for our software platform, but also for our hardware, like our interactive displays, like this one behind me. That there is it's a touch capable display. That one's 75 inches.
Okay.
They go all the way up to 98 inches, and that's the new standard for education in the U.S. and most developing countries, or developed countries, would be these interactive flat panels. But we've won awards also for our professional development, which that's a major aspect for education as well. In fact, that's what I hear most about when you go out and talk to teachers, or you talk to administrators or superintendents, and you say, what do you need? Number one I hear is, we need more training. We need more professional development. And we've won awards for that training and that professional development that we are providing specifically on helping educators teach in this new environment. And we have a lot of training tools for that. But then also received awards for our STEM solutions. We got a bunch of solutions that meet science, technology, engineering, math. We have a 3D printing solution, which is actually right there, if you can see it. That's
Okay. I see it.
Called the Robo 3D.
Yeah.
We have you probably can't see it actually on my desk back there. We have a science device that we sell. We have a robotics and programming solution. We're very committed to the STEM category. When you think of jobs of the future, they're STEM jobs. When you talk about helping lift, especially disadvantaged students, out of that situation, STEM jobs, right, are the best jobs that are going to be available for them to be able to earn more money and to contribute. And so, we're very keen on that.
Okay. What are some of the things that you're doing in terms of African American kids? And because you're in Atlanta, it's a great population there. What are you doing for those they're having those challenges? What types of things is Boxlight doing in the community?
So first off, we're believers, and we're part of the voice that says there shouldn't be a discrepancy between the solutions you receive in District A versus District B, regardless of, the wealth differentiation or the makeup of the students. And so at Clayton County in Georgia, where we've sold, which is right here south of the airport in Atlanta, which is a school district that has a high population of minorities and also a high population of students that receive free student lunch because, they're disadvantaged, and a lot of federal money because they're not getting the money they need from that area of the district. We believe that they ought to receive the same technology and the same tools than, say, Beaufort County in South Carolina. We sold there as well, and that's Hilton Head. That's a wealthier district.
Yeah.
So I think that's number one, is you can't disadvantage students based on where they live and where they grew up on the technology and the resources that are being provided. And I believe generally, most people believe that, but there still is a discrepancy in funding, and that's something we got to fix. And we've been a voice for that. But I will tell you, in those two districts I mentioned, we supplied the same solutions. Both of those districts have our interactive flat panels in every one of their classrooms. Both of them have various accessories. Both of them have the full suite of our software. And we've done a lot of training in both districts, actually more training in Clayton County. We're on year 3 of a of a contract with Clayton County to train all of their teachers. In fact, we've certified every one of their teachers. We're in the process of that on our software platform, which is
Okay.
key. When you put technology into a district, you can't expect it just to be used. There has to be the training and the certifications so that there's really adoption and you're really driving outcomes. But back to
Okay.
the kind of the core question. Now, how do you help minorities and disadvantaged students? Number one is technology. Number two, we can only do so much on this, but I think that you got to attract great teachers, right? So that's
Okay.
something else. And so, I'm a voice for that, I think we got to pay our teachers better, and we got to attract
Yeah.
great educators into districts around the world, around the country, and even more globally. Um, and then I would add too that some of the concerns in some of these communities is you have less participation, and some of the less participation in education, and that's been exacerbated because of COVID, right? So now it could have
Right.
been before that they're not as active in their education. Now they may not even sign on. In fact, I've even heard from some of these districts that we deal with that they've had as much as 50% of the student population in their K-12 districts have not signed on at least one day a week, meaning they're unaccounted for one day a week. When you have those kind of
Wow.
numbers, it's difficult as an educator to how can you help when a student's not there? So how do you fix that? Well, if they're not getting what they need from their home, which sometimes isn't happening, there needs to be
Yeah.
more community involvement. That's what it comes down to. So I'm a big proponent, and we're getting a little outside of what Boxlight does, but I would tell you that
Yeah. I
personally,
understand.
I'm a proponent of we need more community involvement. Those of us that have a good home situation that have it figured out, we need to help the other guys in our community that don't have it figured out. Help those
Yes.
children in particular. And I think there can be programs, community programs. I think government led, community led. I think Boxlight to some extent we can be part of that as well. We're talking about that, but I think ultimately it's having a mentor, it's having somebody that's encouraging you to participate in your education, helping you understand that there's something beyond high school, that you could go to college, you could go get a career, you could go to a trade school, and you can become something more, you can contribute more, you can find happiness in your success. I think that's something we need to do a better job of.
I like that, man. I like the fact that you care about the kids enough to even get off track like this a little bit, because at the end of the day, that's what I believe most people care about. Does this guy who's the CEO of Boxlight really care about kids, or is it a money thing? Is it just about generating profits, or do the kids actually matter in being successful? And it sounds like to me that you do care about that.
100%. And that's not just me. That's true of our leadership team. That's true of everybody in our company. We're all passionate about education, and we talk about it and we believe it, that within education, we want to be a force for improving outcomes in students. And we know that nothing's more powerful than education to help lift individuals out of poverty and out of difficult situations in families and communities in our nation, right? Education is the most powerful tool. And we're just happy to have an ability to influence that, and we're trying to do a better job every day.
Let me ask you this. You're making quite a few acquisitions. Like, what are some of these acquisitions that you're making? What's the intent? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, you just bought a company, and not too long ago you got you got involved in the 3D printing business. So, like,
Right.
tell me what's the big vision?
Yeah, so we bought the 3D printing business. That was in March of last year. We bought our Belgium distributor just last month. The most significant acquisition we acquired was a company by the name of Sahara Presentation Systems. That was in September of last year. But let me back up to the beginning. So we actually came together via some acquisitions. We bought a company with the name
Okay.
Boxlight. That's our name today. We took on that name. That was in mid last year. Or
Hmm.
not last year, mid 2016, excuse me. We also bought a company at that time by the name of Mimeo. That's a brand that we carry today. A lot of our solutions are branded Mimeo, and that
Okay.
really is largely our K-12 brand in education for the U.S. is that Mimeo brand. But those initial acquisitions in 16, that really brought together our initial management team, our core
Okay.
solution suite specifically for education, hardware and software, and put us on the map. And it was from there that was kind of the beginning of Boxlight. Fast forward to 17, IPO in 2017, and then six additional acquisitions post IPO. And most of those were small acquisitions of solutions, which added to our total solution suite. We're big believers in offering a full solution suite for education. with everything integrated into the software. And that includes hardware, software services, as I talked about. We also break out STEM solutions kind of outside of that. That's a major category for us. But most of those acquisitions would be just that. They would have been solutions acquisitions. EOS Education was an acquisition. That was our professional development division, which we run today. And the founder owner of EOS Education now is Dr. Alex Lee. She runs our PD and training group. We acquired a company by the name of Quizdom. Quizdom was a software company. Darren Beamish was the CEO of Quizdom. Now he's the head of our global software. He works for us. We have his whole software team. A lot of those software solutions now are part of the suite that we offer. Also, when we launched Mimeo Connect, it was Darren and his team that built out Mimeo Connect, and we moved forward with that solution.
I mean, you guys are aggressive, man. I mean, y'all are on it.
Yeah. You mentioned STEM. Our 3D printing company that we acquired that company in March. I said we also bought our robotics company and coding company. That was the company we bought about 2 years ago as well. So that was via acquisition. But I would say that most of these acquisitions, built out our solution suite. The difference to that was in September of last year when we acquired Sahara. Sahara was a transformative acquisition for us. They were 3 times our size. They were largely concentrated in Europe. We were largely concentrated in the U.S. They brought several management team members, which are now part of our executive team and our core leadership team. In fact, our executive team today is 5 members. 3 of those came from Sahara Presentation Systems, and then you have 2 of us that were legacy Boxlight. But the combination of the Sahara and the Boxlight team put us on the map, even more so for especially education. We're a global company today, and we sell all over the world. And also financially, it made a massive impact because we went from a smaller company to a much bigger company. We went from losing money historically to now on a cash flow basis and adjusted EBITDA basis, we're positive. And you would have seen that last quarter. So that was the big acquisition that we made. On a go-forward basis, we're not expecting large transformative acquisitions like that. There may be some small ones along the way, like this recent acquisition of our Belgium distributor. But our main focus today is on organic growth. We think we have the team, we have the product suite. The industry is never been better. That there's unprecedented amount of demand for our solutions, and so we're just focused on how do we take market share, how do we grow, grow with a great industry and build a bigger, better company.
Did President Biden put any extra money in that whole big stimulus package that he gave out? Did he put some education on that?
No, he definitely did. In fact, I had the numbers over on the side here. I'll tell you. So on the stimulus, there's really kind of 3 packages that got put out. You had the CARES Act, which was back in, that was March of last year. Everyone remembers that. But that actually, the CARES Act, along with a lot of stimulus, it came with about $31 billion for education.
31, okay.
That's a lot of money, right? But then they dwarfed that in December. You had the new COVID Relief Act that hit in December of last year. And that was a $900 billion stimulus package, but it came with $82 billion for education. So,
$82 billion.
Yeah, $82 billion. And, if you look at what does that mean? Well, that $82 billion, that's more than $1,000 per public student. That's you want to figure, what does that really mean? So, a classroom of 30 kids, that's $30,000. That's a lot of money, right, for education.
Absolutely.
Well, then you have in March, of course, President Biden put forth his plan, which passed, which was a $1.9 trillion stimulus package. And that included $170 billion for education. So the December plan was $82 billion. Well, the stimulus in just March of this year, $170 billion. It's a lot of money. And that money, the $170 billion and $82 billion, most of that's not being spent yet, but it will be over the next couple of years. That will be spent. But we are seeing spending of CARES Act money, and we're getting solutions purchased, and we're told this is from the money they received from the CARES Act. So this money it's entering education. I think it's absolutely fantastic that the government's supporting our education systems, and this is what they need to get back to learning, to bridge the learning gap, to train our teachers, to give them the tools they need. And we're going to benefit, not only is it great for our country, and there's similar things happening, by the way, in other countries, not to the extent of the US, but there's similar things happening throughout Europe and other places as well. But for Boxlight, it means we're going to have some really, really good quarters, and the next few years are going to be tremendous.
That sounds great. Now, looks like they're going to be getting back in school. I was teaching my daughter at home, and with the online, I could tell she was just slowing up in her learning. and they let her go back to school. They gave us the option. And I said, she's going to school. And you could just see the difference. So, but everybody's getting ready to go back to school. How is that going to impact Boxlight now that people are going back to school and wanting to be back in the classroom?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm a believer in that personally. I know it's difficult and it causes some complications. And certain students and certain teachers, absolutely should not go back to school. But I think for those that are able to and those that can do so safely, the research is clear that students perform better on average, tremendously better on average, when they are in a traditional learning environment. And I think, not just myself, our Secretary of Education, he's a big proponent for that, and most influencers in education are following the research, and they're saying that that's what we need to do. So first, I'd say I agree. We got to get students like your daughter back in more of a traditional environment where they can be more effective. For Boxlight, financially, it's better for us. We have a suite of solutions that we sell, which includes software and training and hardware. The majority of those solutions are best used in an in-classroom environment. Our software is great for virtual and hybrid learning, but some of our hardware doesn't make as much sense in virtual environments. And so, we financially for us, it's better us moving towards that trend of in classroom, and that trend's happening all over the world. Some countries are a little bit slower to move forward, and some school districts or states in the U.S. are a little bit slower to move towards that. But we believe that vaccines are rolling out. We're seeing improvement, not to the extent that we need to in COVID cases, but I think that everyone believes that's going to start to happen. And for the most part, we will have students in classroom with, in some areas, there's going to be a virtual option, and I think that's necessary.
Yes.
But the nice thing about Boxlight is we provide solutions for both. But a move towards traditional classrooms is better for us.
All right, cool. There's this new vote now. Everybody votes Zoom or room. You know what I mean? You got to make a choice. They don't believe in the half the room, half the people online and half in the room. They want them. You got to make a decision: Zoom or room.
Yeah, and I will tell you that's I think that's the toughest environment, and that's happening now. And in a lot of districts, it's going to happen where they're going to have these hybrid scenarios where you have a teacher teaching kids in both environments, like both in the classroom and at home. And how do you do that, right? How do you teach in these hybrid environments? And they talk about the buzzword is synchronously, right? So in these synchronous learning environments, meaning you're teaching at the same time, how do you do that effectively? Well, if all you have is a laptop and Zoom, and you have to sit behind your laptop like this, it's hard to engage with the students in the classroom. That's a terrible environment. And so we actually have some solutions for that. We have an audio solution to where a teacher can wear a pendant around their neck, and they can walk around the classroom. Audio is captured, distributed throughout the room, but also captured and distributed to that student at home. We also have cameras that we can offer or help source, where a camera could follow a teacher. Teacher can walk around the room, and then the students at home can still see that teacher, and they don't have to be tethered behind their laptop. We also have our interactive flat panels where teacher can annotate, students in the room can see it on the panel, but that panel also can be shown to the student at home. Our tools allow for assessment, where if you're putting out assessment, the assessment goes both to students in classroom and at home. The collaboration can happen across. So we have a solution for all of that. And I think we have the best solution for that environment. If you have to be in that environment, I think we offer the best solution available for that environment. But I think you're right. For the most part, either or is better and easier than trying to do both at the same time. That's pretty tough.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you for all your time. And listen, we were just talking with our good guy here, Mr. Michael, and we appreciate CEO of Boxlight Corporation. Last question before you go. Actually, it's two. I always like for you to talk to the young people who desire to be a CEO one day, and maybe give some advice on what they should be thinking about right now. But the other question is some of your shareholders, investors, people that follow you like that, in a world where social media is so strong and you got so many different social media platforms that you have to be on. Is that something you're going to begin to engage in a way where they feel that the company's super active in that, or is that challenging because there's so many? Like you've got LinkedIn, you got Pinterest, you got Twitter. It seems like everybody, that once they go over there, they don't usually leave sometimes, but they do want to know what's going on with the company without me having to necessarily leave Pinterest or Facebook or Instagram. How are you handling that?
Yeah, so we post on most of those platforms. I would say number one, if you have time and are interested, go to our website. There's a ton of content on our website and a lot more content that you can share in a social environment. There's restrictions on a Twitter or even a LinkedIn or Facebook of how much content you can share and how you display it. We have a lot more flexibility on our website. So I would say go there. We got videos, we got case studies, we have tons of content. You can see all the solutions that we offer. You can see all of our press releases are all organized nicely there. Our SEC reporting documents are organized. So that's the best place to go. Beyond that, we've been quite active. I think for a company of our size, more active than just about any other company out there on social. We have several social handles on Twitter. So go check out Clever Touch. That's one of our major brands. You can see what we're posting almost every day on Twitter. Our Boxlight, we have several for Boxlight. We have our core Boxlight in the US. We have a Boxlight Latin America. We have a Boxlight EMEA handle as well. You can probably go find those and follow those. We have one for EOS Education, which is our professional development group. We have one specific to our STEM solutions with our My STEM Kids team. So we're posting stuff almost every day on social. You're going to see all that. Me personally, I try to post periodically, but there's only so much I can post and so often that I can post. Most of the information I'm providing is going to be in the form of kind of traditional IR that we're providing out there. But I do post some myself as well as other team members do as well. You'll be able to find that. We're also on LinkedIn. Most of those organizations also are going to have LinkedIn profiles. You can look at those. We're on Facebook. We're on most of those platforms. So I think just go out there and you can find them, or if you need to, send somebody in our organization, a note, and we'll point you in the right direction.
Man, I appreciate you, man. You're a kind guy, by the way, and I want to make sure you understand that I reached out to you on Twitter, and like I do a lot of people, because I just enjoy doing it that way. And you responded, and you were very kind, and you set this up and made it happen, and that means a lot to a lot of people, because when the CEO is touchable, people really respect that.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'll tell you, I get dozens of messages on Twitter a day, and I respond to most of them. So I think those watching know that I'm responding to most of you. I don't always, sometimes depending on the message, if it's appropriate or not, I may not respond. But for the most part, I am responding, and I'm trying to be a little bit more active myself. So yeah, I'm happy to. I'm glad you reached out to me. I'm glad we could do this. I love talking about what we do. I'm proud of where we, how far we've come and where we are, and I love sharing that message about the company.
In that last quarter, man, you rocked it, man. So you might as well, hey, it's like a game. The score is the score. If you won, you won. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. We rocked it. I mean, our guidance was 27 million. We hit 32 million in sales with 33 million in orders. Positive adjusted EBITDA. I mean, every metric we beat. We beat our own internal metrics, right? That was a monster quarter for us, the best quarter ever. Leading into Q1, we gave guidance of 28 million. Q1 is our slowest quarter, typically represents less than 20% of our business. So even if you took that 20% number at 38 million, that puts us at $140+ million company. We expect to beat that number. There is an unprecedented amount of business that we're seeing. Our pipeline is bigger than it's ever been. We're going to continue to put out great quarters. So, I think, our stock price has been a little bit, unsettling over recent weeks, but we can't control the stock price.
I know they say who knows what the stock market is doing now.
Game, yeah, look, in the long game, we're building a great company. So you got to believe that that's going to follow over time. We do our best of sharing what we're doing to the world. We'll continue to do that and even try to do a better job of that. But I think at the end of the day, with good fundamentals, which we're building, you got to think that that at some point we'll be valued appropriately, and we're believers in that.
I saw something, man. I don't want to hold you. I know you got to go. I saw something online about blockchain connected to education. So what is all that about? Like, what do they mean? Like proof of degree or through blockchain, through education? Is that something that you guys are having to deal with now too?
Well, so we're at Boxlight. We're not dealing with that. I personally have taken an interest in blockchain and have invested in various businesses in that industry. And blockchain has application across really almost every industry out there. And so definitely it has application to education, especially around keeping data secure and safe and making sure data is accurate. And that could be transcripts or grades or student data, any of that. I think blockchain definitely has an application there. I don't know that anyone's doing that very well yet. I think it's going to be a little bit more into the future. I think potentially, we haven't looked at that yet, but potentially we could even build in some tools into our platforms that involve, blockchain. So I think that's something that could happen. We just need a little bit more broad adoption before before we do something like that. I would say, Boxlight's probably not a first mover on that type of technology. We definitely are a first mover on some of the software solutions and the specific tools that teachers are using in a classroom environment. And when I say classroom environment, that could be virtual or hybrid as well. But that's our main focus for education, is that environment and making sure we're empowering the teacher to be effective. So that's where we are today.
Okay.
But yeah, there'll be application for sure.
All right. And can you just close out by speaking to the young people that are watching us that are interested in becoming a CEO one day?
Yeah, would love to. Yeah. So, I personally mentor several children myself. I also help provide some scholarships to some students, that I think, are in need, and I'm trying to help personally. And so I take a personal interest in this. But I would say, first off, you can be anyone you want to be, right? There's no, regardless of how you're brought up, and and what situation you're in. I'm a firm believer in your ability to dig out and create something for yourself, whatever you want that to be. And so, I think that's the first thing I'd offer. Second thing, I'd say get all the education you can. And when I say get all the education you can, it's not just about getting your passing from one grade to the next, or going to secondary education, getting a degree. Really, it's about learning everything you can, because that's going to put you in a position to where you can offer more to society, and in return get rewarded more personally. And then I would say find good mentors. I think that probably is as important as even education itself, is having good mentors that can help point you in the right direction, that can give you advice, can motivate you, can introduce you to the right people. And I think mentorship is something that we're probably missing, especially for kids that are less advantaged. I think that's the thing they need is good mentors. But you can, as a young person, you can go out and find them, right? And I think someone that reaches out to me, the answer is always probably yes. I think that's true of you as well. I think that's true of most people, right?
Absolutely.
Go find who you want to be your mentor, reach out, and I bet they probably say yes. So that would be my advice.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Man, you've been busy, working hard during this pandemic. And let me just say this. I know you just said you came off a vacation, but you need to go ahead and go on another one, okay? Get you another break out there. Hey, thanks for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than Michael Pope. He is the CEO of none other than Boxlight Corporation, based there in Atlanta, doing big things when it comes to education. That's this episode of Conversation with a CEO, and we appreciate you for listening.